Let's take a look at some information and charts on Binance for Brave New Coin. And I'll say from the outset, I'm not a fudster. I'm going to show some bearish charts at the end. I'm not even looking for bearish confirmation with bear goggles on anything. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a tax person. But without the risk of repeating myself in May, if you're curious, there is a massive regulatory risk for Binance in more ways than one, maybe greater than Ripple. So keep that in mind forever and always on anything I'm about to say about Binance. As long as you're informed, that's all I care about personally. You can read more about this stuff. I still don't know where the ex-Binance US CEO is up to, what they're doing. So anyway, let's go through some of this stuff. Binance, obviously, if you are in crypto at all, you know that they are a mega behemoth ultra unicorn in regards to what they've done in crypto, what they're doing in crypto. They really have done anything and everything they could to ruthlessly compete with everybody on everything. They've touched probably every country around the world at this point that they could, both legally and illegally. They are doing everything under the sun, trading-wise, borrowing-wise, swaps-wise. They're probably doing NFTs. I haven't really heard much about that. But they're doing a ton of stuff, some charity stuff, tons of support for currencies. And this has definitely helped translate into BNB value over time. Here's a view of the BSC ecosystem. Just an infinite amount of stuff. Wallets, games, tools, insurance, lending, yield farming, oracles, PancakeSwap, right? It's like CZ's Rug Emporium. tons of fake nonsense on PancakeSwap. And I'm not going to discount the enormous amount of stuff that Binance has brought to crypto. But that opens them up from a regulatory perspective to everybody around the world trying to go after them. Their biggest issue is probably going to be funds related to terrorist financing. Again, this isn't FUD. You can Google it. They've been involved in some of this stuff, kind of not on purpose, but it's just part of what it is for crypto. So that opens them up to some risk. CZ's, talked about all of that stuff ad nauseum and is attempting to right the ship legally on that, I'm sure. So as long as you're aware of all of that, right, you can't deny how insane this has been for Binance. Q1, the biggest burn ever at nearly 15 billion in total profit. They basically doubled the burn that they had from when they started burning. I mean, look, they more than doubled it. This was the burn, 2.95 billion from 2017 to 2020. Q1 hits, and they hit the biggest burn, bigger than all other quarters combined. Just a massive, massive burn with the token price hitting crazy, insane 10x levels, right? Like, this is ultimate euphoria, ultimate endgame bullish stuff. They had PancakeSwap on their side. They had high ETH fees on their side. They had this attraction for retail, this excitement to allow people to get in to this stuff in a cheap way. And their burn was enormous, right? It makes sense. They're still on PancakeSwap, number 4, depending on how you add this stuff up, on the TVL list. Their TVL is still quite high. Even if we go to different websites, DeFi Llama is another good one that calculates multi-chain, multi-version stuff like Curve and Aave. So these are the clear leaders up here, TVL-wise, when you account for everything. But Binance PancakeSwap is still a considerable amount relative to everything else. So even after a little bearish downswing, they're still holding a considerable amount of TVL. Here's how the TVLs kind of looked, this Eiffel Tower situation. But in general, it's still increasing, right? Trading volumes are down significantly, transactions down significantly, and users are down significantly from the highs. But all in all, they're still much higher than a lot of these platforms on any given day. So it's going to be hard for PancakeSwap to disappear, even if Layer 2 ETH is successful, EIP 1559 is successful. It wouldn't surprise me that PancakeSwap or BNB would counter EIP 1559 with some sort of additional burning mechanic or something, crazy, right? On top of what they're already doing quarterly. If they see people fleeing to ETH, they're going to do this. I have no doubt in my mind. So are the best days of BSC behind them? Potentially. I mean, this stuff, it's hard for me to translate this stuff from like a sensibility, usability perspective. I don't know what any of these coins are, literally none, zero. Cake I've heard of, but everything else, no clue. I have no clue what any of this means. There are a lot of retail people who do quite well and have done quite well with this stuff, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, APR, APYs, whatever, are insane, and that's what brings people in. So BSC still a powerhouse. Here's the daily transactions. You know, it looks like the best days of BSC are behind it. But, you know, that's kind of what I said about this token burn in Q4, and then Q1 rolls around and it's like, you know, 5x what Q4 2020 was. So it's hard to discount this stuff in the future, but it definitely was right place, right time. Unique addresses have kind of flattened off as well per day. Big spike here that probably wasn't completely real in the initial onboarding of everything. And then it's over the past few days, it's kind of flattened off. And this is important for BNB token price because a lot of the smart chain stuff is priced in BNB. Transaction fees priced in BNB kind of hit some crazy highs and then dropped off. BSC is not decentralized. The nodes are controlled entirely by Binance. Anybody who tells you differently is joking themselves. So it's definitely not a traditional DEX. It's not a traditional cryptocurrency, right? This is very much an in-house thing that's done really well relative to some of the other stuff going on. It's been very attractive moat to keep people in the casino per se. If we look at transaction counts on the chain, again, in a little different way on coin metrics, you can see they're down considerably, although they did perk back up pretty significantly a couple days ago. It's hard to trust a lot of these metrics. Binance is known for goosing some of their things on occasion. Average transaction value is still quite low. So take all these metrics with a grain of salt. Here's active addresses, which just look catastrophic, right? This is peak euphoria mania type stuff. And then this is reality. So to see price for the token still above 500 something, I think, right? It's at what? Oh, sorry. Just kidding. 287. Even still, to see the 287 is kind of crazy, considering what the on-chain metrics look like and all the user numbers for the exchange looks like on the BSC side of things. Volumes for the exchange, which I don't even have pulled up, but Binance volumes probably will continue to do well if China keeps shutting people out of OKX, Huobi, right? If the competition shuts down, Binance is only going to get stronger. Bitfinex is only going to get stronger, volume-wise, open interest-wise. That was the Dash MVRV, so ignore that. But I also wanted to touch on the stablecoin stuff. There's basically 3 players now. It's Tether, which is this red, green, blue slice at the bottom. USDC at the top at 23% and growing, orange slice. And then this purple slice here, which is Binance, is at 10% and growing and continues to grow. And then a smaller slice is MakerDAO, the DAI situation. And if we take out the HUSD, Huobi, Pax, GUSD, it's pretty clear that we have a few winners here. And even DAI is mainly, it's 52% stablecoin. So it's BUSD, USDC, and Tether. Now Silvergate did kick Binance off of banking a few days ago, and there were some reports of troubles with withdrawals, and that's kind of a perpetual issue. Bitfinex has had that issue in the past. Coinbase has had that issue with other countries and not necessarily the United States. So here was the story from CoinDesk. They said they're working hard to provide an alternative USD solution. This was on June 10th. I don't know what they've done since or what they're doing. I'm sure CZ has talked about it somewhere. But to lose banking is a big deal, and this is probably partially related to ransomware stuff that's continually being sent to Binance. Some of it's been cashed out successfully. Again, this isn't FUD. You can just look it up, follow the chain data. This has happened and will happen. So it's unlikely that these things are not connected. And keep in mind, the regulators have their sights on Binance and anybody who works with Binance banking-wise. If we look at Binance, search term exploded in mid-year a few months ago. and has kind of declined since. Again, another reason not to be so bullish on the coin itself. For searches for the coin have declined significantly. You can see where they were and where they are. And I mean, that's just brutal. If we zoom in a little bit, just an explosion down to previous lows. So any of the TA I'm about to talk about is colored with the fundamentals, which regulatory risk tells me stay out. Transactions and users tell me to stay out. The potential upcoming success of EIP 1559 tells me to stay out. Potential layer 2 on ETH tells me to stay out. Because really, BNB was just sucking the ETH liquidity out of the room for retail, and the token price benefited from that enormously, obviously. And if we look at 5200 yearly pivots, VPVR, volume, RSI, I mentioned with Decred and Dash, but just like ETH, BNB shot way past the R5 yearly pivot and needs to come back down to earth eventually. This will retrace, I have no doubt in my mind. It's setting up for a bearish death cross on the daily. It's setting up for a massive head and shoulders that looks better than the head and shoulders on BTC even. That measures down to 10. Now, do I think it's going to go back to 10? No, but it just shows you the magnitude of the pullback that's potential here. That has potential here. Certainly 100 is a decent level just based on psychological support, but this isn't painting anything bullish on the daily. It's already down significantly, right, from the highs, as is anything in crypto. Yearly open was around 30. So to me, downside is much simpler than going up at this point in time. Here's the daily cloud, which had been bullish since July. So from July to May, there's your trade. Super clean. Held the cloud the entire time. May 18th hits, everything sells off, everything sort of falls through the cloud. And now it's below the cloud, so it is bearish, but it does have this TK disequilibrium like everything else does, telling you be careful continuing to be short down here because it looks like it wants to either stay sideways or mean revert to 455. Now, if this does pull to 455, it has a great potential for higher. I just don't see the euphoria, the mania needed to get it there at this point. Again, the more obvious play is just back to 30, back to 50, back to 100, and it's not going to move by itself unless it gets hit with regulatory stuff, because people will sour on that and or just pile on news-wise and be ready to short that, right? Like people will be watching for that sort of thing. And this already is setting up for conditions to retrace. Here's the BTC pair, and the longs have been pretty obvious. It's been above the 200, above the cloud, telling you in late 2018 and early 2021, now's the time, right? The magnitude is whatever. It doesn't matter where it goes. It's just telling you this looks like a good entry. This looks like a good entry. This also looked like a good entry in mid 2020. That ended up selling off, right? But the trades that explode are the pay for the ones that don't. And this one certainly exploded, also past the R5, and is also telling you the momentum is over. We've shifted from bullish to neutral. Anything below 007 moves into bearish territory on the cloud and on the 200. And there isn't necessarily a pattern here, but this probably wants to go back to 0045, the previous consolidation. Most of the volume is below 0025. So I don't think this holds its highs either. And on the ETH pair, this head and shoulders looks even better to me. It's really cliffing on the 200. It's already below the cloud. That this Kijun has come way down, right? It's snaked all the way down. So it's telling you, okay, it's fine to be short again. Mean reversion didn't happen to the upside. And this measures basically back to the early January lows of 04. And there are levels on the way down, 01, 07, 05. And this will probably take a while to get there, as it has done historically. I don't think this just shoots straight down necessarily, but the pattern is extremely clear, as well as the trend metrics. Like, everything is on your side for this to move to the downside. So as a whole, BNB has done great things. They've been involved in virtually everything imaginable. CZ has done a great job from a business perspective. They've had trouble staying out of trouble, and that may do them in the end. And there are probably increasingly risky or risk-related events that could happen with Binance that could negatively affect BNB. Again, I'm not a fudster. I don't really care what happens one way or the other. I'm just looking at the evidence here. And the technicals look extremely bearish, ready for mega retracement. It's just an easy trade. This is a super easy trade. A short on BNB ETH is a super easy trade, and I'm not even an ETH fanboy. Lastly, I'll just mention the BTC and ETH fund I trade for Techemy capital on Enzyme.finance, along with the DeFi portfolio, non-custodial portfolio management tools. You can send ETH or USDC or just watch what I'm doing. You can see AUM, performance, allocation, trades, deposits, withdrawals. A lot of the weird volatility you're seeing in the share price in the near term is related to the Oracle price of Aave USDC. If this goes to 98 cents or 102, 103, things are going to look crazy wild in the graph here. So just keep that in mind. We had some people asking questions. Here was a day, like I did nothing on the day, but the share price jumped 9 cents, right? Of this smart contract. So just keep that in mind. In general, this stuff is really just $1. And the DeFi portfolio is the same. We have 15 to 20 DeFi coins that I'm looking at on any given day that I can allocate into. Some of these I have bearing interest on Aave, and most of this is still in Aave USDC because I think in general most of the market is ready for lower lows. So kind of hedging my bets against lower lows here with some exposure. But ultimately, I think this does go lower, even though it's down 70-80% across the board on DeFi. So that's all I have for this one. Like, dislike, comment, share, subscribe, and happy trading.